أهلا وسهلا بكم في هذه الحلقة الجديدة من جسور. وضيفي اليوم هو الأستاذ يعقوب كوهين، أو ممكن أن نلفظه جاكوب كوهين، مغربي يهودي لكنه مقيم الآن في فرنسا. أستاذ يعقوب أهلا وسهلا.
أهلا وسهلا.
طبعا هذه الحلقة سنديرها باللغة الإنجليزية كما عهدتم، رغم أن الأستاذ يعقوب يعرف العربية ولكن يفضل أن نتكلم باللغة الإنجليزية لأن عربيته ربما صدأت قليلا، أليس كذلك؟ A bit rusty Arabic.
Yes.
Okay. It's a pleasure to have you here at الحوار. Now, of course, you're here for a purpose. There's a conference that is being held and you are one of the panelists. A conference on the anniversary of the Balfour Declaration.
Yes.
What will you be speaking about in the conference?
I'll be speaking about the role of Great Britain about Balfour and the policy of the Great Britain about Israel and Palestine, and from Balfour to BDS. So I'll try to point out a few rules or principles about this struggle about how is Zionism and how to fight it.
Okay. Now, let's go to the beginnings. You were born in Morocco.
Yes.
In 1944.
Yes.
Where were you born?
Yes, I was born in Meknes. Meknes is a big city in Morocco. It's called even an imperial city. And Jews were living in Morocco. We're all living in Mellah. It is to say a ghetto, Jewish quarter. And in Meknes, it was particular because it was 100%. We were almost maybe 16,000, 18,000 Jews in Meknes, in the ghetto. And we have everything in the ghetto. I mean, schools, shops. And we were living really between us. And it was a very traditional community, religious, traditional, with schools, French schools, not from France, but from Alliance Française, which is an organisation, ONG, GNO.
A charity?
Yes.
Running the schools?
Yes, running the schools. And that's why many pupils from Meknes in the Mellah went to school and they got graduated.
Now those schools were only for the Jewish community?
Yes. Yes.
Not for everyone.
Because France was not interested to open schools for the indigene, means for Moroccans, Jews or Arabs or Muslims.
Now,
yes.
How was your early years what do you remember of your upbringing in Meknes?
Yeah, well, we really dreamt of France, because we received a French education, and to us it was France represented the ideal of the society, of the thinking. And when we were maybe 14, 15, 16, our dream was to go to France to study, to get a diploma, to be integrated, to be a doctor or lawyer.
So culturally,
yes,
because of the educational system, this Jewish community became so attached to France.
Yes. And there was a gap between my parents and me, for instance, and all the parents, because my parents, like all the parents at this time, were almost analphabet, didn't know French, and we had no communication.
They were illiterate?
Almost illiterate. There was a gap of 3 centuries between my parents and me, for instance. And we didn't even had a communication way, because when I was 8 or 9, I talked only in French. Only Arabic was for the small things of the house,
And your parents, what did they speak? They spoke Arabic?
Only Arabic.
They spoke Arabic?
Yes. But very, very, I mean, elementary Arabic, just, they couldn't read a paper, for instance, nor a book. They couldn't listen to news, for instance. So they were very off and overworld,
Now, you went to school in Meknes, and then after you finished school, you went to university.
Yes, but when I was at school in Meknes, the Zionists they came to Morocco, they came to Meknes, and they took a lot of young people, Jewish people, to youth movements, Zionist movement.
Where?
In Meknes, for instance, there were 4 Zionist youth movements.
In Morocco itself?
In Meknes.
In Meknes.
And in all the other towns, there were 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. In Meknes, there were 4, and they tried to bring us to Zionism and to go to Israel, and to convince us to go to Israel and to take our parents, our family. They had a very strong propaganda movement in the 50s. And I spent 4 years in one of these movements.
Oh, for a while, so you were part of them?
Yes, and I almost was on the edge of going to Israel as a pioneer, like they say at that time.
So because of this effort, many Moroccans, many Jews in Morocco left and went to Israel.
Yes, because they put a lot of pressure on the Jews, and the Jews in Morocco were not Zionists. I mean, they didn't want to go to Israel. It was not their desire.
What would encourage a Moroccan Jew to leave Morocco and go to Israel? Were the Jews badly treated in Morocco?
No. But after the independence, I mean, the Zionists came to Morocco in 1948. And until, let's say, 1957, 1958, they didn't succeed to take many Jews to Israel. A few thousands, but not really a massive like they hoped, People didn't want, and not even didn't want, but they didn't like the Zionists. Why? Because the Zionists were atheists. And in Meknes, the rabbis told us not to go with these people who don't believe in God. So there was a relation really bad with the Zionists. But after the independence, it was a big instability in Morocco. I mean, fear of the Jews.
It was a nationalist sort of sentiment?
The nationalist, for instance, of l'Istiklal, the l'Istiklal party, political party. He was nationalist and a little bit anti-Semitic. He didn't like the Jews. He didn't like the Jews because the Jews were their principal contenders. And the party l'Istiklal, the Istiklal party, wanted the Jews to go elsewhere, anywhere, but not to stay in Morocco.
I think probably the mistake many Arab nationalists made at that time was that they linked Israel with the Jews and the Jews with Israel.
Yes.
Or at least they accepted this theory that if you are Jewish, then you must be pro-Israel.
Yes. Well, it became a reality right now. Maybe that's why also they make this mistake. But originally, in the origin, the people who made Israel, they were called the pioneers, Halutim. They were atheists. They hated religion. They hated the Jews of the diaspora, and not even when the Zionists went to Palestine in the 1920s, 30s, 40s. Not many Jews took part of this adventure. I give you an example. From 1880 to 1924, when the states closed the door of the immigration, there were 2 million people who went to the States from Poland and Russia. and only 20 to 30,000 went to Palestine. I mean, people were not interested. They were mocking this, it was a dream or something like that. Until 48, all the communities in the world didn't, they looked at this adventure as something really realistic, utopia. And the religious were 99% against this ideology because it goes against the religion.
Yeah. Now, so you did not go with the Zionists.
Yes.
You remained in Morocco.
Yes.
You finished school and then went to university.
Yes.
And you studied law
Yes.
in the university. Was that a university for all Moroccans or
Yes.
again a Jewish university?
No, for all. But there were not enough Moroccan pupils, Muslims, because the schools were not very spread in Morocco. So it was a minority of Muslims, but there were some. And I left Morocco in 1967, and it is interesting to point out one thing. It was in all the Jews in Morocco, almost all the Jews, had this thought of leaving Morocco.
Of leaving Morocco.
Of leaving Morocco. It was inside, like something which had to be done.
Well, today all the Arabs would love to leave their countries because of the bad economic situation, bad political situation.
Yeah. But the Jews didn't feel, although the situation was good, but the Jews felt that their place was not more in Morocco. For instance, when a Jew had a good place in somewhere, like the Ministry of Finance, some Muslims would look at him as, he's not at his place.
Why is he there?
Why? So many, 99% of the Jews left, not all for Israel. Half of them went to Canada to have just a life, or France, to be sure to be treated like citizens. In Morocco, they were not sure to be treated as citizens.
And you left in 1967.
Yes.
Where did you go?
I went to France. I studied 4 years, and I left. I went to Canada. I lived there 6-7 years, and in 1978 I returned to Morocco. It was for private reasons, but it's like that. And I lived for 10 years. I was assistant professor at the University of Casablanca.
And the language of tuition was French?
Yes. There were two sections, one in Arabic and one in French. And in 1987, I left definitely Morocco. I found out that the place of a Jew, really, it's terrible to say it, but the Moroccans are not ready to compete with a Jew. He is a national, he is a compatriot, he's Moroccan, but they don't accept.
They still see a Jew as a foreigner.
Yes, somehow, somewhere, and you see, there are maybe between 2,000 and 3,000 Jews living in Morocco. All of them, when their children got the baccalaureate, the
high school
degree, 100% of the young people go to France, and they don't return. They don't come back. So, just to give you the feeling of their thought about their future in the country.
Would it be right to say that the majority of the Jews in France came originally from Morocco, or not necessarily?
Right now, yes. Because the Ashkenaz people, the origin from Europe, were the majority before the war. After the war, the majority came from the North Africa. And now,
because the Ashkenazim went to Israel, maybe?
No. But they disappeared. They disappeared a little bit with the war, and they integrated, they assimilated. A lot of them married to over religious.
So they lost their Jewish identity.
Yes. A lot of them, not all of them. There are some, but the most dynamic people, like Jewish tradition, synagogues, schools, and everything, came from Morocco and North Africa.
But what makes the Jewish community of France
Yes.
much more supportive of Israel than other Jewish communities
Yes.
in Western Europe? What's so special about the Jews of France?
Well, we have to say that not all the Jews, maybe I would say 1/3 of the Jews support Israel. But the propaganda, the Jewish and Zionist propaganda, makes it very clear to put these Jews because they are the young children go to Jewish schools. They develop a kind of kasher restaurants, kasher places, and everything. And maybe the links to their parents living in Israel. A lot of Moroccan people, of Jewish people living in France, they go for 1 month. They have an apartment in Israel, and they go in August or in summer. So they have links, and Israel has succeeded to develop this intention or this character that the Jews in France are less and less part of the national people. I mean, they feel different. And this is the work of a very, very strong propaganda of the Jewish establishment.
So they feel probably a stronger affiliation to Israel than to France.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sure. Sure. I mean, if there is a war or tension between France and Israel, they would choose. I mean, they are French from papers. I mean, but they feel. But there is 1/3, I say, because what people ignore, I think, that 1/3 of these Jews in France, they don't give a damn about Israel.
Yeah, but
we didn't hear. We didn't listen to them. They are not allowed to speak out. You know.
Yeah, that's the problem. 1/3, but a very powerful 1/3,
Yes.
much more powerful than
Sure.
the other 2/3.
Yes.
And it would seem as if they speak for the whole Jewish community
Yes, exactly,
of France.
Exactly, because France has a very strong. I mean, what happened in the Second World War? They have a strong feeling of culpability. I mean,
Guilt.
Guilt. Yes. And there are, a lot of people, Jewish people in France, who have strongholds in the medias. With what I called them in a book, the Spring of the Zionism. I talked about the Zionism. It means that they are Jews who are Zionists and they work for the Mossad. And they are everywhere in England and in the States. But in France, I don't think it happened. It happens in England. Almost all the medias are in their hands, or are influenced by the Jewish lobby, and many also politicians.
Is that why you were accused sometimes of? I mean, you are Jewish yourself.
Yeah.
They cannot accuse you of anti-Semitism, but I heard this term even used against you at one stage. Is it because of your daring description of the situation in France?
Yeah, they can't stand that Jew. They can't stand it. I mean, anyone can criticize Israel, the Zionism, almost, because nowadays in France, if you criticize Israel, you are anti-Semite. So it's almost official, you know. But that this criticism comes from a Jewish guy, it's intolerable for them. And for that reason, I was attacked by a Jewish movement,
Jewish Defense League,
twice in 2012, and the justice didn't say anything. I mean, for the French justice works for I mean, is under the order of the Jewish lobby.
You mean the French justice system?
Yes.
The courts?
Yes. The French justice system is under the order, obeys to the Jewish lobby. When for instance, I made a quenelle, you know. I mean, I don't know if you know the gesture. Dieudonné made this gesture popular. It is called the quenelle. Okay. But the Jewish lobby decided once that the quenelle is anti-Semitic. Why? Because Dieudonné did it. And I did a quenelle in a video. And in March 2017, one of the leaders of the Jewish, you know, Gozlan, he called the chief of the, you know, the Justice Department and said, hey, you have to pursue Jacob Cohen because he did a quenelle. And in the days that followed...
Just because of a gesture?
Exactly. No, and because he received a call from this guy. And the Department of Justice, in the days that followed, 3-4 days, they called me to and I almost...
they called you for questioning?
Yes. I almost was prosecuted, but they didn't dare because they don't want to give me the, you know, to make me...
A martyr.
Yes. So they tried to, okay, we forgot about this event.
I saw once a video clip of some of our friends from Naturi Carter who were demonstrating in the center of Paris. Mm-hmm. And some guys from the Jewish Defense League, actually one guy we saw in that clip, but our friends say that this happens repeatedly, came on a motorbike wearing a helmet and attacked them, although they were just peacefully demonstrating.
Yeah.
This is almost unheard of here in the UK.
Yeah. You know, but we almost know, quasi-official, that the Jewish Defense League, they're training in the police quarters.
Of France?
Yes. Never. I was once at a lawyer office who takes care of Jewish Defense League, and she showed me a lot of files and told me never one of these guys once he spent 1 day in prison. When they do their actions, they go to Israel for a few months and they come back. Nothing.
And the case is dropped. Amazing.
I was attacked by 7 to 8 people. Violence in group, premeditation, insult, everything. And they dare, you know, do you know some criminals, they registered the aggression and put the aggression on their site. And they said, we aggressed the traitor Jacob Cohen.
So they took pride in what they did.
And they put it on their site, okay? We attacked the traitor, the capo Jacob Cohen, and nothing happened. I mean, the police, or the justice, they turned, like we say in French, they turned their head aside.
As if nothing happened.
No. I mean, really, France is, I would say that France is a Jewish state, a Jewish republic. I mean, nowadays, it's terrible. I mean, when the CRIF makes his dinner, you know, we call that le dîner du CRIF. He organizes each year the big dinner, you know. He invites almost 1,000 people, all the head of the state. I mean, all the politics, but not the leftist, like Mélenchon, for instance. Mélenchon criticizes Israel, so he's forbidden. But you know, the medias, everybody, you know, all what the Republic, I mean, the President of the Republic, all the ministers, and they came to receive their instructions. And the President of the CRIF tells them, hey, you have to take laws against anti-Semitism, against this, and they say, yes, sure.
Let us have a break and then we will resume the discussion after the break. نأخذ فاصلا قصيرا ثم نستأنف. نرجو أن تبقوا معنا. أهلا وسهلا بكم مجددا في هذه الحلقة من جسور، وضيفي هو المفكر اليهودي المغربي يعقوب كوهين. Professor Cohen, I read a little bit into your CV and says you are a well-known anti-Zionist Jew.
Yes.
Now you've expressed your ideas in articles, some of which are published in your own blog, but also in a number of books which have actually been published. And of course, regrettably, these have only been in French. They have not been translated into English or into Arabic, but we'd like to talk about them. I think the most recent of these is about Hebron, isn't it?
Not the most recent.
Which is the most recent?
The most recent.
Because I come from Hebron, so I remember Hebron.
Okay.
my hometown.
The most recent is Confession d'un Sayan.
Confession. So it's like اعترافات, the confessions.
Confessions of a Sayan. Sayan is the singular of Sayanim. It means that a Jew working for the Mossad. So I took example of a journalist.
Working?
Helping the Mossad.
Voluntarily?
Voluntarily.
Not paid?
Without being paid. It means that when the Mossad needs him, for instance, I took the example, he works in the paper called Libération in France. Libération is known as a leftist, paper. And to me, I wanted to show how this leftist paper helps, in fine, Israel, the Zionists. Why? Because they criticize always some part of the occupation and colonization, but doesn't go into the depth of analyzing the system of the Zionists. That is to say, they try to help by all means the delegitimation of Israel. And I wanted through this novel, because all my books are novels, but they are realistic.
So you are telling a story of someone,
yes,
to illustrate what the problem is about.
Yeah, but it's very realistic. I mean, all the personalities are known in the paper, and how this guy came to help the Mossad and how, for instance, when he had the section of, when people send contributions to the paper.
The commentary.
Commentary and everything. So he has to choose, and how they put these so-called progressist writers, Israeli writers, like David Grossman, Amos Oz, Abbe Yehoshua, to give the people who is in the left in France to think that in Israel there is a real progressist movement who helps for the peace. But it's really forgery. Because these people, these free people, they work hand in hand with the government to give the illusion that Israel is not so bad. I mean,
which government? The French or the
Israeli?
No,
the Israeli government.
Israeli government.
Because my point of view is the Zionist ideology is it cannot make peace. It cannot get into good relations with its neighbors. I won't have time maybe to talk about. The point is that it's a racist movement, and it is based on apartheid and on domination and on strength. Okay, but the system of criticizing Israel with these humanist writers is to give the idea that Israel can be saved, can be in fine, can make peace, can be a good state. And the work of this paper, Libération, is to help get this idea among among the left in France.
So this is the role of this community
exactly.
of people you wrote this book about.
And I wrote this book to make clear to people who read Libération, to tell them that make attention, this is just to to give another image of Israel.
Give an impression which is not realistic.
Yeah, which is not realistic.
Now, and these are everywhere. How many of them?
The Sayanim?
Yes.
I suppose, you know Victor Rostovsky. Mm-hmm. He wrote his book about...
by way of deception. Yes.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And he said in the 80s, there were 3,000 Sayanim in London.
Oh, in London alone?
Just in London alone. I don't know if you remember this detail, but there were in the 80s 3,000 because the Mossad...
That was when he was still an agent of the Mossad,
yes,
before he left.
Because the Mossad needs Sayanim everywhere, in the banks, in the schools, in the universities, everywhere. So when they need someone, they find him. So I suppose in France there are between 4,000 and 5,000 in France.
And the same thing happens in every capital, in every town, yes, around the world.
Around the world. I mean, imagine the industry of the cinema and the TV in Los Angeles. I mean, dominated, influenced by maybe 3,000 or 4,000 people working for the Mossad. I mean, look, you took the movie, you take the movie Exodus. This movie helped making making advance the storytelling of 48 in the imagination of a whole generation in the Western world, for a generation that they took like a truth the Zionist history of 48.
So it's like trying to humanize
yes,
a colonial project.
Yes. And why? Okay, for instance, a few days ago, in Lyon, they wanted to organize a conference about Islamophobia. Mm. Okay, it's normal. I mean, there was such a pressure, because Sayanim are at the university in the ministry, and they abandoned the project
because of pressure.
Yes. I mean, when a university, l'École Normale Supérieure in Paris, I mean, where was Jean-Paul Sartre, Simone de Beauvoir, the school formed the philosophers and everything. L'École Normale Supérieure. With Stéphane Hessel, 3 or 4 years ago, they wanted to make a conference about BDS. They were prevented. And they made this conference outside, on the street. That's the role of the Sayanim, is to prevent every criticism, every organization against Israel.
And these people are working free of charge. So
yes,
imagine, I mean, if the Mossad wanted to employ them, how much that would cost. No. But they're doing it free. Okay, let's come back to Hebron.
Yes, sure.
What is the book about Hebron?
Okay, Le Commando de Hebron is...
So you're talking about a police commander?
No, well,
Army
not
commander?
exactly. No, not exactly. I mean, I am not surprised, but I wanted to show how the Israeli society and the Jewish society in France are becoming very extreme. The communitarism. And I took an example of a Jewish girl in Paris who falls in love with an Arab. Mm. And almost the same thing happens in Hebron, in Israel, which is a Jewish girl falls in love with an Arab. And it's a parallel, Mm. And the reaction, I mean, maybe 20 years ago, 30 years ago, never in Israel nor in France, it would have been, like something not very important. Mm. But now, through this novel, through this parallel history, I wanted to show how the society reacts very violently.
Mm-hmm. With violence.
With violence, even to send a commando of Hebron to react with violence against these girls. That's why it's called the Commando de Hebron, because it's a commando who is used to punish the girls of all their Arab lovers. Mm. And it shows the extreme, it shows how the Israeli society, Jewish society, and the French society is changing, you know. It becomes very, 2 years ago, just to one Israeli woman, Jewish, married to an Arab. And there were hundreds of people outside of the lobby where they were celebrating. They wanted to lynch the and the police. Yeah, and the police had to protect. Tens of policemen had to be implemented to protect.
This is in Israel. This is in Israel.
In Israel. It has become really a problem because the Jewish society is becoming more and more violent and more ethnically closed. And through this novel, I wanted to show this development and this mentality.
And now there's a novel about Bethlehem.
Yes.
And God is not coming to Bethlehem.
Well, yeah.
Why? What's the story here?
I want to tell the Palestinians. Okay? God or Jesus, God came once 2,000 years ago to Bethlehem. And he wanted to save the humanity. Don't expect God to come back once again. There is no God. It's too bad, but it's terrible. I mean, because
are you speaking to the Palestinians or to the
Palestinians?
Because to the Palestinians, this would probably be in line with the Christian faith.
Yes,
but not with the Muslim faith, because the Muslims don't believe Jesus was God.
That's why.
But it's symbolic, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's why I didn't take. I said God. I didn't say Jesus or Allah or something. I mean, God came once in Bethlehem. I mean,
Why isn't he coming back again? What's wrong?
Why?
What's going
because
on?
they can't expect peace with their neighbors. I'm telling the Palestinians, don't dream. The Palestinian Authority makes fool of you. They are the servants of the Zionism, of the Israeli occupants. They are and the Palestinian people is, the Palestinians think wrongly, hope wrongly that they could get a state. There could be peace. It can't be peace. God will never come back to give them hope, to give them a country, to give them a normal society.
So this means that you never agreed with Oslo from the start?
No, it was a big, not a mistake. I mean, Oslo could have been in the beginning, although the fact that Arafat gave 60% of the West Bank, gave 60% under the Israeli sovereignty. I mean, it was obvious that the Israelis didn't want peace. I mean, didn't want to make possible a Palestinian normal state. And the 24 years, you know that between Egypt and Israel, it took 6 months. Because, I mean, we knew the bigness of the agreement. And for the Palestinians, it was sure that, okay, we have a country Okay, we draw the frontiers with the borders, and that's it. But the Israelis, I mean, they play. To me, Yitzhak Rabin was the. I mean, he. You know, the Zionists are very clever.
But Yasser Arafat thought he was cleverer.
No, you know what Rabin said? 1 year before, he said, we'll take Arafat, take him out of his hole, and he will do what we want him to do. Mm-hmm. And Arafat, that's the problem with the political people. You know, he was a big personality. You know, I went to and you know, he was received everything. And after in the last years, he was in Tunisia. You know, and the Israelis were very clever. Instead, because if they negotiated with Marwan Barghouti, for instance, the leader of Intifada, Barghouti would say, okay, we want a state, or if not, but Arafat, just to come back under the spotlights of the actuality, he gave everything the Israelis wanted. Okay, but after that, the Palestinian Authority, you know, the Palestinian Authority, it's a nomenclatura of maybe 5,000 people who get very, very high salaries, between sometimes until $20,000 to $30,000 a month. They get permits of the occupant. You know, they are permits VIP 1, VIP 2, VIP 3. They don't get through the checkpoints. Their children can go to abroad, study, and come back. And this nomenclature of 5,000 people, they just say we want the state and everything, but just words. Mm. And unfortunately for the Palestinians and the people who suffer from the occupation, and from the Oslo Agreement from 1993 to now, the number of settlers has increased of 500%. So,
that's why you think the two-state solution is just impossible.
No, it's a joke. It's a joke. I mean, if you know why Israel did that, because you know that Israel didn't have diplomatic relations. Just two examples with India and China. Oslo Agreement. Okay, Israel. Okay, they sign, and they get diplomatic relations. Today, China and India buy for $5 to $6 billion of weapons to Israel. Just you know, you see how Oslo Agreement was a very, very. I mean, I'm astonished of.
So it has served the best interests of the Israelis, but not the Palestinians.
Yeah. Mm. And okay. That's why I wrote this book to show how the Palestinians, because they built industrial zone in Bethlehem. That's why I called it Bethlehem.
Mm. Now, you have a book called Am Latifah.
Yes.
Am Latifah.
Yeah.
What's the story of that book?
The story is, there is a young girl, which is 16. You know, in Morocco, we have a people called les Fassi, people who came from Fez. And they are specific in Morocco. I mean, they are the descendants of people who were in Spain, the music of Spain, the buildings, the mosaic and everything. And they are the most civilized in Morocco, the people who have the most important positions, and people who went to Casablanca in the 50s and some of them became multimillionaires. Okay, but in these families, there are people who became very rich and people who stayed very simple, you know, modest. And this girl came comes from a modest family. She has a good name, but she comes from a modest family. And her cousin, who is a rich man, at the age of 35, he says, now I need a woman to marry. A woman who gives me children. And, she will stay at home. So they call the family, the modest family, and say, bring us the girl for a tea. And, it's an honor, to be. But the girl, she, at the age of 16, she said, no, I don't want. I mean, in her head. And she said, no, I don't want. So, and she, it is written in the, how do you say, first person. I mean, it's the girl who writes.
The girl is talking about her experience.
My name is Latifah, as I came from, and so on. So, and she, when she realizes the thing, she revolts against the system. And I wanted to show through this story this specific society in Morocco. And in Morocco, many things are hidden. There is no sex in the relations. Outside marriage, nobody.
It's haram.
It's haram. But what happens behind the curtain?
The scene.
In Casablanca, I remember, for instance, there was a girl or two girls are walking alongside on the pavement, and a car goes through, and how do you say klaxon?
The horn.
The horn. And the girls get in or not. And I experienced, when I returned to Morocco, I experienced a lot of things because I didn't know really Morocco when I was living there.
So this is something you discovered afterwards?
When I went to work in Casablanca, I discovered the real Morocco, my country, my society, which I didn't know. We Jews, we used to live out separated. I didn't know anything of the Moroccan society.
So this is your first interaction,
yes,
really, with the.
And I wanted really. It's.
So there are. What I understand from you is that this novel is about two faces of Morocco.
Yes.
One that is claimed,
exactly.
And one that is real but hidden.
Exactly.
Now, this book has nothing to do with Palestine. It's specifically about Morocco.
Some books are about the Moroccan society, but even though there are novels, there are a description of the society, which are the strength of the relations, how the society goes. I mean, you understand? I mean, okay, they are not just novels of.
No, you tackle real issues, but
exactly.
in a form of a novel.
Yes.
Now we are running out of time. I just want to ask you a last question, if you don't mind. Do you still go to Morocco? Do you still
yes.
And you still have family there?
No. I have a cousin, but I go. I'm often invited to go to Morocco to make conference. But even though I have a very bad reputation in Morocco.
Why?
Well, because I'm an extremist.
You mean among the Muslims, among the
No, among the young people, they like me. But the establishment doesn't like me.
That's to your credit.
Okay.
In the Arab world, if you are not liked by the establishment,
exactly.
then you are okay.
Exactly.
The problem is when the establishment likes you.
Yes.
That means that you are
yes.
against the wishes of the ordinary folks. Yeah. Well, it's been a pleasure having you in الحوار, and I really enjoyed talking to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
وشكرا لكم على حسن المتابعة، وإلى اللقاء في حلقة قادمة مع ضيف آخر في جسور.